As we delve into the world of ancient myths, we often find ourselves captivated by tales of powerful gods and their legendary offspring, the demigods. These mythical heroes embody the essence of courage, strength, and divine power, leaving us with the impression that being a demigod is the epitome of greatness. However, the harsh reality is far from the romanticized narratives we've come to know. Being a demigod wasn't just about wielding extraordinary powers or possessing a noble lineage. It was a perpetual struggle to find one's place in a world that wasn't designed for them. The stories of these half-divine heroes are woven with threads of pain, sacrifice, and conflict, a testament to the unforgiving nature of their existence. Imagine being born with the mark of a god upon your skin, only to be shunned by the very people who should have celebrated your heritage. Envision being gifted with powers that set you apart, but also make you a target for those who fear what they don't understand. This is the life of a demigod, a constant balancing act between two worlds, with no clear path to follow. In this series, we'll be uncovering the unseen struggles of demigods, exploring the darker aspects of their stories that have been glossed over in popular culture. We'll delve into the early deaths, tragic quests, and endless identity struggles that define their lives. We'll examine the price of their powers and the weight of their impossible expectations. And we'll discover how heroism came at a high cost, with immortality never being part of the deal. As we embark on this journey, I invite you to join me in re-examining the myths we thought we knew. Let's peel back the layers and reveal the brutal reality behind the legendary half-divine heroes. Together, we'll uncover the truth about being a demigod, a truth that's as captivating as it is heartbreaking. In the next section, we'll be exploring the concept of early deaths and tragic quests, common themes that ran throughout the stories of demigods. We'll examine the reasons behind these fates and how they were often tied to the expectations placed upon these heroes by their divine parents. But before we dive into that, I want to leave you with a question. Have you ever felt like you don't quite fit in? Like you're caught between two worlds, struggling to find your place in the world? So you're not alone. Being a demigod wasn't just a mythological concept. It was a very real struggle that many of us can relate to in some way. In the following sections, we'll be exploring the complexities of demigodhood, and I encourage you to share your own stories and experiences in the comments below. Your insights will help shape this conversation and provide a deeper understanding of what it means to be a demigod in the modern world. So, let's begin our journey into the unseen struggles of demigods. Join me in the next section as we delve into the world of early deaths and tragic quests, a world where heroism came at a high cost and immortality was never part of the deal. Section 2. The Lonely World of Demigods. As we continue our journey into the lives of demigods, it's essential to understand the harsh reality they faced. Being half-god wasn't just about wielding extraordinary powers. It was about living in a world that didn't quite understand them. These individuals were caught between two worlds, with one foot in the mortal realm and the other in the divine. This led to a life of isolation, where they struggled to find their place in society. Take the story of Hercules, for instance. As the son of Zeus, Hercules was born with incredible strength and bravery. However, his life was marked by tragedy and hardship. He was forced to complete 12 impossible labors, which ultimately led to his decline and eventual madness. The pressure of living up to his divine parentage took a toll on his mental health, and he became a pawn in the games of the gods. Hercules' story is a testament to the struggles demigods faced. They were constantly tested by their divine parents, who expected them to live up to their godly standards. But these individuals were human, with all the flaws and imperfections that come with mortality. They were expected to be superheroes, without the support or resources to cope with the demands placed upon them. One of the most significant challenges demigods faced was their inability to fit into either the mortal or divine world. They were seen as outsiders, neither fully human nor fully divine. This led to feelings of loneliness and disconnection as they struggled to find their place in the world. Take the story of Perseus, for example. As the son of Zeus and Danae, Perseus was born with the ability to see through illusions and possess the power of the gods. However, he was also mortal, and his life was marked by struggles and hardships. Perseus' story is a poignant reminder of the struggles demigods faced. They were caught between two worlds, with no clear sense of belonging. They were expected to be heroes, without the support or resources to cope with the demands placed upon them. This led to a life of isolation, where they struggled to find their place in society. In the next section, we'll explore the role of jealousy and rivalry in the lives of demigods. We'll examine how the gods and goddesses of ancient mythology often used demigods as pawns in their games of power and manipulation. Section 3. Tragic quests and impossible expectations. As we continue to explore the complexities of being a demigod, let's delve into the world of tragic quests and impossible expectations. These tales of heroism often overshadow the harsh realities faced by demigods, who were expected to live up to the standards of their divine parents while navigating the dangers of a mortal world. Imagine being tasked with completing a quest that could save the world, but at a terrible personal cost. This is precisely the kind of burden that demigods like Hercules, Perseus, and Orpheus had to bear. Their lives were a series of trials by fire, with each success building upon the last, but also leading to greater expectations and more daunting challenges. Take the story of Hercules, for example. Born with incredible strength, he was tasked by King Eurystheus with completing the 12 labors, a series of impossible tasks designed to test his mettle. From slaying the Nemean lion to capturing Cerberus, Hercules faced monsters and obstacles that would have defeated a mortal. Yet, with each triumph, he was met with more tests, more expectations, and more suffering. But Hercules' story is not unique. Demigods like Perseus, who beheaded Medusa, and Orpheus, who journeyed to the underworld to reclaim his beloved wife, Eurydice, all faced similar struggles. Their quests were not just about achieving a goal, but about living up to the ideals of their divine parents, who often had their own agendas and expectations. In many ways, these tragic quests served as a form of psychological warfare, designed to break the spirit of the demigod. They were forced to confront their own mortality, to question their own identity, and to make impossible choices that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. So, what can we learn from these stories? How can we apply the lessons of demigodhood to our own lives? For one, we can see the value in embracing our own struggles and imperfections. Demigods were not perfect. They were flawed, often struggling with their own identity and purpose. Yet, it was precisely this vulnerability that made them human, that made them relatable, and that made their stories so compelling. Moreover, we can learn from the importance of self-compassion and self-awareness. Demigods like Hercules and Perseus often struggled with their own emotions, their own desires, and their own limitations. They were not superheroes, but complex individuals, prone to making mistakes and facing setbacks. As we explore the world of demigods, it's essential to remember that their stories are not just about heroism and glory, but about the human experience. They remind us that being a hero is not about being perfect, but about being imperfect, about being vulnerable, and about being human. In the next section, we'll delve into the world of identity struggles, where demigods faced the challenge of navigating two worlds, two cultures, and two identities. How did they reconcile their mortal and divine selves? What lessons can we learn from their struggles, and how can we apply these lessons to our own lives? As demigods navigated the complexities of their divine heritage, they often found themselves caught in a web of impossible expectations. Their mortal side, torn between loyalty to their human family and the call of their divine parentage, struggled to reconcile these conflicting identities. Meanwhile, their godly side, accustomed to power and authority, expected nothing but greatness from their half-human offspring. Consider the story of Hercules, the legendary demigod son of Zeus. Born of a mortal woman, Hercules was expected to live up to his father's divine standards, embodying the qualities of strength, courage, and wisdom that defined the gods. But as he grew older, Hercules began to realize that his human vulnerabilities made it impossible to meet these expectations. He was prone to rage, susceptible to fear, and plagued by self-doubt, all limitations that his divine father could not comprehend. This paradox of identity weighed heavily on demigods, who found themselves struggling to define their place in the world. Were they mortal or divine, human or God? The answer, of course, was both, and neither. This liminal existence, suspended between two worlds, made it difficult for demigods to find their footing, to know who they were or where they belonged. Take, for example, the story of Persephone, daughter of Demeter and Zeus. As a demigod, Persephone was expected to inherit the power and authority of her divine mother. But her mortal side, shaped by her human upbringing, yearned for a simpler, more ordinary life. Her fate, however, was sealed. She would be taken by Hades to the underworld, forced to rule as queen alongside him. Persephone's story serves as a poignant reminder that, for demigods, the burden of expectations was often a heavy one, weighing heavily on their hearts and souls. The weight of these expectations also took a toll on demigods' relationships with their divine parents. Zeus, for instance, was notorious for his numerous affairs, fathering countless demigods in the process. But while he showed no qualms about abandoning his mortal lovers, he expected his demigod children to live up to the highest standards of divinity. This double standard, where Zeus demanded perfection from his offspring while ignoring his own responsibilities as a father, added to the sense of disillusionment and disconnection that many demigods felt. In the next section, we'll explore the theme of immortality and its consequences for demigods. We'll examine how their extended lifespan, far from being a blessing, often became a curse, forcing them to witness the passing of loved ones and the decay of the world around them. Section 5. Identity struggles of demigods caught between two worlds. As a demigod, the struggle to find one's place in the world was an ongoing battle. Born of divine bloodlines, yet mortal in every way, demigods felt like they didn't quite belong in either realm. They were the bridge between gods and mortals, but this unique position only added to their sense of disconnection. Perseus, the Greek hero, was a prime example of this identity struggle. He was the son of Zeus, yet his mother, Danae, was a mortal. As a result, Perseus felt out of place among the gods, who saw him as inferior due to his mortal heritage. At the same time, he was also rejected by the mortals, who resented him for his divine parentage. This sense of not belonging is a common theme in the stories of demigods. They were often forced to walk a tightrope between two worlds, never fully accepted by either. This constant feeling of being caught between two worlds led to a deep-seated sense of insecurity and self-doubt. The demigods' struggle to find their identity was also fueled by the expectations placed upon them. As children of gods, they were often seen as destined for greatness, their lives predetermined by the gods themselves. This added pressure to perform made it even harder for demigods to find their place in the world. Take the case of Hercules, for example. Born of Zeus and a mortal woman, Hercules was destined for greatness from the moment of his birth. However, his divine parentage also came with a price. He was forced to complete the 12 labors, a series of impossible tasks set by King Eurystheus. Hercules' struggle to complete these labors is a testament to the crushing weight of expectation placed upon him by his divine heritage. The identity struggles of demigods were further complicated by the fact that they often possessed supernatural abilities that set them apart from mortals. These powers, while a blessing in many ways, also made it difficult for demigods to connect with their mortal counterparts. The story of Hercules' son, Iolaus, is a poignant example of this. Iolaus was a demigod himself, and his powers were a direct result of his divine heritage. However, his inability to control these powers made it difficult for him to connect with mortals, who saw him as a freak rather than a person. In the next section, we'll explore the role of jealousy in the lives of demigods, and how this emotion played a significant role in shaping their destinies. As we delve deeper into the world of demigods, it becomes clear that their struggles were not limited to their identity. They faced many challenges, from the expectations placed upon them to the dangers that lurked in the shadows. However, it's the story of demigods that can teach us valuable lessons about resilience, perseverance, and the importance of staying true to oneself. By examining the lives of demigods, we can gain a deeper understanding of what it means to be caught between two worlds. We can learn from their struggles and find ways to apply these lessons to our own lives. Join me next time as we explore the role of jealousy in the lives of demigods. Section 6. Half-God, Whole Heartache. The Identity Struggles of Demigods. Being a demigod sounds like a dream come true, powerful bloodlines, extraordinary abilities, and heroic destinies. But what happens when you're stuck between two worlds, belonging fully to neither? The stories of demigods are filled with identity struggles, as they grapple with the impossible expectations of their divine parents and the cruel reality of their mortal lives. Let's take the example of Hercules, the Greek demigod son of Zeus and a mortal woman. Hercules' father, the king of the gods, abandoned him as a baby, leaving him to be raised by a mortal stepfather and stepmother. This abandonment would have a profound impact on Hercules' sense of identity, as he struggled to reconcile his divine heritage with his mortal upbringing. He would go on to face a lifetime of challenges, from battling monsters to completing 12 impossible tasks set by King Eurystheus. The struggle to define oneself is a common theme among demigods. In many mythologies, these half-god heroes are seen as outcasts, never quite fitting in with either the mortal or divine world. They're caught between two worlds, with no clear place to call home. This sense of disconnection can lead to feelings of isolation and loneliness, as demigods struggle to find their place in the world. One of the most famous examples of a demigod struggling with identity is the Norse god Loki. As the son of a giant and a god, Loki is often seen as an outcast among the other gods. He's known for his cunning and trickery, but also for his deep-seated insecurity and need for acceptance. Loki's story is a powerful reminder that even the most powerful demigods can struggle with feelings of rejection and inadequacy. So, what can we learn from the identity struggles of demigods? For one, it's clear that being a demigod is not just about having extraordinary abilities or a famous family tree. It's about navigating a complex web of relationships, expectations, and responsibilities. Demigods must constantly reconcile their divine and mortal sides, often facing impossible choices and conflicts along the way. But here's the thing: these struggles are not unique to demigods. We all face identity struggles in our own lives, whether it's navigating our relationships with our families, workplaces, or communities. And just like demigods, we must learn to reconcile our different sides, to find a sense of purpose and belonging in a world that often seems overwhelming and uncertain. So, how can we apply the lessons of demigods to our own lives? First, we must recognize that our identities are complex and multifaceted. We are not just one thing or another, but a rich tapestry of experiences, relationships, and influences. By embracing this complexity, we can begin to reconcile our different sides and find a sense of unity and purpose. Second, we must be willing to confront our own fears and insecurities. Demigods are often seen as heroes, but they're also deeply flawed and vulnerable. By acknowledging our own vulnerabilities, we can begin to heal and grow, to find a sense of acceptance and belonging in a world that often seems hostile and unforgiving. Finally, we must learn to navigate the impossible choices and conflicts that come with being a demigod. Whether it's choosing between our divine and mortal sides or navigating complex relationships with our families and communities, we must learn to find a path forward, even in the face of uncertainty and adversity. In the next section, we'll explore the topic of half-god, whole heartache, the price of power. We'll delve into the ways in which demigods' powers often come with a steep price, from cursed abilities to the weight of their divine responsibilities. But for now, let's take a moment to reflect on the identity struggles of demigods and how we can apply their lessons to our own lives. Section 7: Tragic Quests and Early Deaths. As we continue to explore the life of a demigod, it's essential to acknowledge the harsh realities of their existence. One of the most significant challenges demigods faced was the weight of their parents' expectations. From a young age, they were expected to fulfill epic quests, often with little guidance or support. These quests could be anything from retrieving rare artifacts to battling monstrous creatures. But what happened when these demigods failed or, worse, died? The fallout was often catastrophic, not just for the demigod but also for their family and loved ones. In Greek mythology, we see this with the story of Hercules, Heracles in Greek. The son of Zeus and a mortal woman, Hercules was destined for greatness. However, his 12 labors were far from easy, and he ultimately met a tragic end due to a poison-induced madness. Their stories are a poignant reminder that being a demigod wasn't just about wielding power. It was about living up to the impossible standards set by their divine parents. And when they failed, the consequences were dire. Hercules' story, in particular, highlights the tension between fate and free will. Was he doomed from the start, or did he have a choice in the matter? In Norse mythology, we see a similar trend with the story of Baldur. The son of Odin and a giantess, Baldur was predicted to die a tragic death, and his fate was sealed from birth. This raises questions about the nature of destiny and whether demigods were truly in control of their lives. But what about the demigods who survived their quests? Did they ever find peace, or were they forever haunted by the ghosts of their past? In the next section, we'll explore the theme of identity and how demigods struggled to find their place in a world that wasn't built for them. As we delve deeper into the world of demigods, it's essential to remember that their stories are not just about myth and legend. They're about real people with real struggles. They face challenges that we can't even begin to imagine, and their experiences offer a unique perspective on what it means to be human. Their stories serve as a warning, reminding us that even the most powerful among us are not immune to suffering. And it's precisely this vulnerability that makes their stories so compelling and relatable. So, let's continue to explore the complexities of demigod life and uncover the secrets that lie beneath the surface. In the next section, we'll examine the theme of identity and how demigods navigated the complex world of divine and mortal expectations. But before we move on, take a moment to reflect on the stories we've covered so far. What resonates with you the most? Are there any parallels between the demigod's struggles and your own life experiences? Section 8: The Weight of Immortality. As we continue our journey through the lives of demigods, we find ourselves at a crossroads. Many of these half-divine heroes were gifted with extraordinary powers, yet they were also burdened with the weight of immortality. This may sound like a blessing, but trust me, it's not all it's cracked up to be. Imagine living forever, watching civilizations rise and fall, and being forced to outlive loved ones who grew old and passed away. It's a heavy load to carry, and one that can lead to feelings of loneliness and disconnection. Let's take the story of Tithonus, a Trojan prince who was gifted with immortality by the goddess Aurora. Sounds amazing, right? Wrong. Tithonus was cursed to live forever, but he was also cursed to grow old and frail. He became a shell of his former self, unable to move or speak. His immortality was a burden, and one that he couldn't shake. This is the reality of being a demigod, a life of eternal existence, but without the accompanying joys of life. The weight of immortality is a theme that runs throughout many demigod stories. Take the case of the Nephilim, half-human and half-divine beings who were said to possess incredible strength and power. They were often seen as a threat by the gods, and were hunted and killed as a result. Their lives were marked by violence and tragedy, and their existence was a constant reminder of their own mortality. As one Nephilim put it, "I am forever bound to this earth, yet forever cursed to watch as the world around me changes without me." This is the paradox of being a demigod, a life of eternal existence, yet one that is also marked by impermanence. We see this in the story of the Greek hero Hercules, who was tasked with completing the 12 labors. Hercules was a demigod, the son of Zeus and a mortal woman. He was incredibly strong and powerful, but he was also cursed with a troubled past and a penchant for violence. His labors were a test of his strength and courage, but they were also a reminder of his own mortality. So, what can we learn from the weight of immortality? Firstly, it's clear that being a demigod is not all it's cracked up to be. Immortality is not the blessing we often think it is. It's a weighty burden that can lead to feelings of loneliness and disconnection. Secondly, it's clear that the line between heroism and tragedy is thin. Demigods were often forced to confront their own mortality and to make sacrifices that they never asked for. As one demigod put it, "I am forever bound to this earth, yet forever cursed to watch as the world around me changes without me." In the next section, we'll explore the theme of identity and how it relates to being a demigod. We'll look at how these half-divine heroes struggled to find their place in the world, and how their mixed heritage affected their sense of self. But for now, let's take a moment to reflect on the weight of immortality. It's a theme that runs throughout many demigod stories, and one that can teach us a lot about the human condition. As we continue on this journey, remember that being a demigod is not just about power and glory. It's about the weight of immortality, the burden of expectation, and the struggle to find one's place in the world. It's a complex and multifaceted topic, and one that requires a nuanced understanding. Join me next time as we explore the theme of identity and how it relates to being a demigod. Section 9. The unrelenting expectations of divine parents. As demigods navigated their complicated lives, they were often burdened by the impossible expectations of their divine parents. These expectations were not just about achieving greatness, but also about living up to a certain ideal, a certain standard that was set by their gods. In this section, we'll explore the unrelenting expectations of divine parents and how they affected the lives of demigods. Take the story of Hercules, for instance. As the son of Zeus, Hercules was expected to live up to his father's reputation as the king of the gods. But Zeus's expectations were not just about Hercules' achievements. They were also about his behavior. Zeus wanted Hercules to be strong, courageous, and wise, but he also wanted him to be loyal and obedient. Hercules struggled to meet these expectations, and his life was marked by a series of challenges and setbacks. The expectations of divine parents were not just limited to Hercules. Many demigods faced similar challenges, including the Greek hero Perseus, who was the son of Zeus and the mortal Danae. Perseus's mother had been imprisoned by her father, King Acrisius, and Zeus had rescued her by turning himself into a shower of gold. As a result, Perseus was born with a complicated family history, and his divine parentage brought him both benefits and burdens. One of the biggest challenges that demigods faced was the pressure to live up to their parents' legacies. For example, the Roman hero Aeneas was the son of the god Anchises and the mortal Venus. Aeneas was expected to be a great warrior and leader, just like his father, but he also had to navigate the complexities of human relationships and politics. This pressure to live up to his parents' expectations often led to feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. In addition to the pressure to live up to their parents' legacies, demigods also faced the challenge of navigating their own identities. As the children of gods, they were caught between two worlds, the world of the gods and the world of humans. This made it difficult for them to identify with either group, and they often felt like outsiders in both cultures. The myth of the Greek hero Heracles is a great example of this. Heracles was the son of Zeus and the mortal Alcmene, and he was known for his incredible strength and bravery. But Heracles also struggled with mental health issues, including depression and anxiety. He was often driven by his emotions, and he struggled to control his temper. This made it difficult for him to live up to the expectations of his divine parent, Zeus. So, what can we learn from the experiences of demigods like Hercules, Perseus, Aeneas, and Heracles? One of the most important lessons is the importance of self-acceptance. As demigods navigated their complicated lives, they often struggled with feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. But they also learned to accept themselves for who they were, flaws and all. This is a valuable lesson for all of us. As human beings, we often struggle with our own identities and expectations. We may feel pressure to live up to certain standards or to achieve certain goals. But the truth is that we are all unique individuals, with our own strengths and weaknesses. By accepting ourselves for who we are, we can learn to navigate the challenges of life with greater ease and confidence. In the next section, we'll explore the theme of identity and how it relates to the lives of demigods. We'll look at the ways in which demigods struggled to find their place in the world and how they ultimately learned to accept themselves for who they were. Section 10. The Demigod's Dilemma, Identity Crisis. As we continue to explore the complexities of being a demigod, we find ourselves at the forefront of a profound identity crisis. These half-god, half-human beings were constantly torn between two worlds, struggling to find their place in a universe that seemed designed for gods alone. Their divine heritage was a double-edged sword, offering incredible powers but also an unrelenting sense of isolation. Take, for example, the story of Hercules, the legendary demigod from ancient Greek mythology. Born to Zeus, the king of the gods, an immortal woman, Hercules was blessed with incredible strength and courage. However, his divine lineage also made him a target for the jealous gods, who sought to punish him for his father's transgressions. As a result, Hercules was forced to embark on a series of perilous quests, battling monsters and completing impossible tasks to prove his worth. But what about Hercules' own sense of identity? Was he truly a demigod, or just a mortal man with a godly father? His story raises fundamental questions about the nature of identity and how it is shaped by our relationships with others. As demigods, they were torn between their human and divine sides, struggling to reconcile their dual heritage. This sense of disconnection from their divine parents was a common theme among demigods. Many were abandoned or rejected by their godly fathers, left to fend for themselves in a world that seemed hostile to their existence. The demigod Perseus, for instance, was abandoned by his mother, Danae, and left to be raised by a mortal king. His divine heritage was a constant reminder of his isolation, a burden he carried throughout his life. So, what can we learn from the demigod's dilemma? How can we apply their experiences to our own lives? The answer lies in embracing our complexities and contradictions. As demigods, they were forced to navigate multiple worlds and identities, learning to adapt and thrive in the face of uncertainty. In today's world, we are constantly faced with the same challenges. We are torn between our personal and professional identities, struggling to balance our individual needs with the expectations of others. We are forced to navigate multiple social media platforms, each with its own unique culture and expectations, and we are constantly bombarded with conflicting messages about who we should be and how we should live. But here's the thing: we don't have to be defined by our contradictions. We don't have to be bound by the expectations of others or the limitations of our own identity. We can choose to see ourselves as demigods, with all the complexities and contradictions that come with it. We can choose to embrace our dual heritage, to see ourselves as both human and divine. And when we do, we open ourselves up to a world of possibilities. We become more resilient, more adaptable, and more capable of navigating the complexities of life. We become demigods with all the power and potential that comes with it. As we continue to explore the world of demigods, we'll delve deeper into the challenges they faced and the lessons they learned. We'll examine the role of power and privilege in shaping their experiences, and we'll explore the ways in which they used their abilities to make a difference in the world. But for now, let's take a moment to reflect on the demigod's dilemma and how it can inform our own lives. What are your thoughts on the demigod's dilemma? How do you navigate the complexities of your own identity? Share your stories and insights in the comments below, and let's continue the conversation. Section 11. The weight of immortal expectations. As demigods navigated the complexities of their divine heritage, they often found themselves burdened by the weight of immortal expectations. Their parents, whether gods or goddesses, expected them to live up to their legendary legacies. However, this came with a steep price, as demigods were constantly reminded of their own mortality in a world where immortality was reserved for the gods. Let's take the story of Hercules, the great hero from Greek mythology. Born to Zeus and a mortal woman, Hercules was blessed with incredible strength and bravery, but he was also cursed with a series of 12 labors that would test his worth as a demigod. His father, Zeus, had imposed these labors as a form of penance for a crime committed by Hercules' stepmother, Hera. The young demigod was forced to confront various monsters and complete impossible tasks, all while struggling to come to terms with his own identity. This phenomenon is not unique to Hercules. Many demigods in mythology faced similar struggles with their immortal expectations. Take the story of Perseus, for example. Born to Zeus and a mortal woman, Perseus was tasked with beheading Medusa, a fearsome snake-haired monster. However, this was not just a simple task. It was a test of his worth as a demigod, and a reminder that he would never be able to truly escape the expectations of his divine parent. The weight of immortal expectations can be overwhelming, especially when it comes to the pressure to live up to our parents' legacies. As demigods, they were expected to be heroes, to embody the values and ideals of their divine parents. But what happens when they fail to meet these expectations? The consequences can be severe, leading to feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. So, how can we learn from the experiences of these demigods? The key is to recognize that our expectations of ourselves are often unrealistic, and that it's okay to make mistakes. As demigods, they were forced to navigate the complexities of their divine heritage, and to find their own path in a world that was not built for them. By embracing our own unique strengths and weaknesses, we can begin to break free from the weight of immortal expectations and forge our own paths in life. In the next section, we'll explore the theme of identity struggles and how demigods often found themselves caught between two worlds, the mortal world and the world of the gods. It's a complex and nuanced topic, but one that holds many valuable lessons for us today. Section 12. The Weight of Immortality, a Demigod's Struggle with Time. As demigods navigated the world of mortals and gods, they often found themselves at the mercy of time. While their divine parents might live for centuries, their mortal side would eventually succumb to the inevitable death. This dichotomy created a sense of temporal disconnection, where demigods felt like they didn't quite belong in either world. Take the story of Hercules, the legendary hero from ancient Greek mythology. Born to Zeus and a mortal woman, Hercules was blessed with incredible strength and courage, but also cursed with a series of labors that would ultimately lead to his downfall. Throughout his life, Hercules struggled with the weight of his immortality, constantly balancing his mortal desires with the divine expectations placed upon him. His story serves as a poignant reminder that even the strongest among us can be broken by the pressures of time. This temporal disconnection had far-reaching consequences for demigods. They often found themselves struggling to form meaningful relationships, as their extended lifespan made it difficult to connect with mortals who would eventually grow old and die. This isolation, coupled with the burden of their immortal existence, took a profound toll on their mental health. One of the most striking examples of this can be seen in the story of Tithonus, a mortal man who was granted immortality by the goddess Eos. While Tithonus lived for centuries, he grew old and frail, unable to die despite his wish for release. His story highlights the cruel irony of immortality, being cursed with a life that never truly ends. As demigods navigated this complex web of time and mortality, they often found themselves at odds with the very gods who had created them. The gods, with their timeless existence, seemed to take their immortality for granted, often using it as a justification for their cruel and arbitrary behavior. Demigods, on the other hand, were forced to live with the consequences of their immortal existence, constantly struggling to find their place in a world that was not designed for them. This struggle with time is a recurring theme throughout demigod mythology, a poignant reminder of the fragility and beauty of mortal life. As we continue to explore the world of demigods, we'll delve deeper into the complexities of their existence, examining the ways in which their immortal lives were shaped by the gods and the world around them. In the next section, we'll explore the theme of identity and how demigods struggled to define themselves in a world where they didn't quite fit in. We'll examine the ways in which their mixed heritage influenced their sense of self, and how they navigated the challenges of living between two worlds. Stay tuned for a fascinating exploration of the demigod experience. Section 13. The Burden of Immortality. As demigods navigated their complex world, they often found themselves struggling with the weight of their immortal lives. Their experiences were a far cry from the carefree existence of mortals, and their divine heritage only added to the burden. Let's take a closer look at the hardships faced by these half-gods, and how their immortality often became a curse rather than a blessing. Take the story of Hercules, for example. As the son of Zeus, Hercules was granted incredible strength and power, but at what cost? His 12 labors, though legendary, were also a series of trials that pushed him to the limits of human endurance. The constant struggle to complete his tasks was a heavy burden, one that Hercules carried with a sense of duty and obligation to his divine father. Yet, despite his Herculean efforts, he was not immune to suffering. His tragic life was marked by loss, grief, and the knowledge that his actions, though heroic, were often driven by a desire to please the gods rather than his own desires. The same could be said for Perseus, who, as the son of Zeus and Danae, was tasked with beheading Medusa. This seemingly impossible feat was, in reality, a test of his courage, strength, and wits. And though he succeeded in his quest, Perseus was not immune to the consequences of his actions. His immortal life was marked by the loss of loved ones and the constant need to move from place to place, always staying one step ahead of those who sought to do him harm. As demigods navigated their immortal lives, they often found themselves struggling with the concept of purpose. With their lives stretching out before them like an endless highway, they struggled to find meaning and direction. Hercules, for example, turned to his labors as a way to find purpose, but this only led to more suffering. His actions, though heroic, were often driven by a desire to please the gods rather than his own desires. In contrast, the mortal world offered a sense of simplicity and clarity that demigods could only dream of. Mortals lived, loved, and died within a defined time frame, their lives punctuated by clear beginnings and ends. Demigods, on the other hand, lived in a state of limbo, their lives marked by endless possibility and uncertainty. So, how can we learn from the experiences of these half-gods? One key takeaway is the importance of finding purpose outside of external expectations. Hercules, for example, found purpose in his labors, but this led to more suffering. In contrast, demigods like Hercules who found purpose within themselves, rather than relying on external validation, often found a greater sense of fulfillment and happiness. This is not to say that the experiences of demigods are irrelevant or unimportant. On the contrary, their stories offer us valuable insights into the human condition. By examining their struggles and triumphs, we can gain a deeper understanding of what it means to be human and the challenges that we all face in our own lives. In the next section, we'll explore the concept of identity and how demigods struggled to find their place in the world. We'll examine the stories of demigods like Achilles and Orpheus and how their experiences offer us valuable insights into the human condition. Section 14. The Weight of Identity. As we continue to explore the complexities of being a demigod, it's essential to delve into the emotional landscape of these half-divine heroes. For demigods, identity was a constant battle, a never-ending struggle to reconcile their human and divine aspects. They walked a fine line between two worlds, never fully belonging to either. This existential crisis is something that many of us can relate to, but for demigods it was a matter of life and death. Take the story of Hercules, for example. Born to Zeus, the king of the gods, and a mortal woman, Hercules' identity was a constant source of conflict. He was both human and divine, with supernatural strength and abilities that set him apart from ordinary men. But this mixed heritage also brought its own set of challenges. Hercules was constantly at odds with his divine father, who seemed more interested in testing his son's mettle than in guiding him. The burden of being a demigod was clear. Hercules was expected to live up to his divine heritage, but at the same time, he struggled to connect with his human side. The same identity struggles can be seen in the story of Perseus. Born to Zeus and a mortal woman, Danae, Perseus was destined for greatness, but his divine parentage also brought him a share of hardship. He was forced to navigate the complexities of being a demigod in a world that didn't understand him. Perseus' story is a poignant reminder that being a demigod isn't just about having supernatural powers or a heroic destiny. It's about finding your place in the world and living up to the expectations of those around you. As we explore the lives of demigods, it becomes clear that their struggles with identity are deeply connected to their relationships with their divine parents. Take the story of Orpheus, for example. Born to Apollo, the god of music and poetry, Orpheus was gifted with extraordinary musical abilities, but his divine parentage also brought him a share of pain. Orpheus' story is a powerful reminder that the bond between a demigod and their divine parent can be both a blessing and a curse. In many ways, the struggles of demigods are a reflection of our own struggles with identity and belonging. We all know what it's like to feel like we don't quite fit in, to struggle to reconcile our human and divine aspects. But for demigods, this struggle was a matter of life and death. They were forced to navigate a world that didn't understand them, to live up to the expectations of their divine parents, and to confront the brutal reality of their own mortality. As we continue to explore the complexities of being a demigod, it's essential to remember that their stories are not just about mythology or legend. They're about the human experience. They're about the struggles we all face, the pain we all endure, and the resilience we all require to survive in a world that's often hostile and unforgiving. In the next section, we'll delve into the ways in which demigods were often forced to confront their own mortality and the brutal reality of their existence. We'll explore the ways in which their divine parentage both empowered and constrained them, and the ways in which they struggled to find their place in the world. Join me next time as we continue to explore the complexities of being a demigod. Section 15. The weight of legacy demigods and the burden of expectations. As we delve deeper into the world of demigods, it becomes clear that the weight of their legacy was a crushing burden. Born to gods, but not quite of this world, demigods were expected to live up to the standards of their divine parents. But what happens when you're raised by mortals, with no guidance from your godly kin? The pressure to perform, to excel, and to live up to the expectations of those who created you is an unbearable load. Take the story of Hercules, for example. His father, Zeus, was the king of the gods, and his mother, Alcmene, was a mortal. Hercules was born to be a hero, a demigod with incredible strength and courage. But his life was marked by tragedy and hardship. He was forced to complete the 12 labors, a series of impossible tasks set by King Eurystheus, which left him exhausted and broken. The weight of his legacy was crushing him, and he often felt like he was living up to his father's expectations, rather than his own desires. This is a common theme among demigods. They were often expected to live up to the standards of their divine parents, but they were also struggling to find their own identity. They were caught between two worlds, and they didn't quite fit in either. This was especially true for those demigods who were born to mortal mothers and godly fathers. They were often seen as outcasts, and they struggled to find their place in the world. One of the most famous examples of a demigod struggling with identity is the story of Perseus. He was the son of Zeus and Danae, a mortal princess. Perseus was born with a shield that made him invulnerable, but he was also cursed to be a monster, a creature with the body of a man and the head of a snake. He was forced to wander the world, killing monsters and completing tasks, all while trying to find his place in the world. Perseus was a classic example of a demigod struggling with identity, torn between his divine heritage and his mortal upbringing. The weight of legacy is a heavy burden to bear, and it's one that demigods struggled with throughout history. But it's not just the pressure to perform that's the problem. It's also the fact that demigods were often seen as outsiders, as creatures who didn't quite fit in. They were caught between two worlds, and they didn't know which one they belonged to. This is a theme that's still relevant today. Many of us struggle with identity, with finding our place in the world. We're caught between different worlds, between different cultures, and between different expectations. We're often seen as outsiders, as creatures who don't quite fit in. But the truth is, being an outsider can be a strength, not a weakness. It allows us to see the world from a different perspective, to challenge the status quo, and to create something new and innovative. So, what can we learn from the stories of demigods? One thing is clear: being a demigod is not just about having powers or abilities. It's about being caught between two worlds, between two sets of expectations. It's about struggling with identity, with finding your place in the world. And it's about being an outsider, a creature who doesn't quite fit in. But it's also about being strong, about being resilient, and about being determined. Demigods were often forced to face impossible challenges, to overcome incredible odds, and to survive against all odds. And they did it with courage, with strength, and with determination.